Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. Come on. Knicks, Spurs, NBA Cup Finals. I don't know why I'm this excited and hyped up over an NBA Cup game, but here we are. The Knicks have an opportunity to win their first championship in over 50 years. I go live here on YouTube. I don't know who's going to tune in. I usually don't get that many viewers on these YouTube live streams, but I decided, you know what? Let me fire it up just on YouTube. Let's see if anyone tunes in. If you do, you're in for a special treat because I'm going to get into all of it. I'm going to get into the X's and the O's, the offensive and defensive ratings, and everything you need to know about this game. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. I can't believe that I'm saying that after being a huge critic of the NBA Cup at first, and then it grew on me. And I understand the need for it in the NBA. I do understand the lack of interest in the NBA before Christmas. So this kind of gives people a reason to tune in to the NBA. And there's still people out there that don't care about it, that don't put a lot of stock into it. I understand. But at some point, it is going to become relevant enough to where people are like, oh, that actually matters. And it's big. This is a big game, especially, for the NBA. If the Knicks win it, that's a good look for Adam Silver because then it gets the entire New York market, at least somewhat into it. Who knows where this goes from here? But what I do know is that the Knicks have finally made the finals of the NBA Cup. I think it was a long time coming, even though this is the third year. I thought it was an inevitability. The Spurs, the matchup with the Spurs team that no one expected to be that good as they are this year, 18-7. The Knicks and the Spurs share the same rating. They share the same record. This Spurs team has been a revelation. I got to be honest. They are top to bottom one of the deepest teams in the league. Oh, and they have a top 3 player in the NBA in Victor Wembanyama. They do everything the right way. And this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. It's the San Antonio Spurs. It's what they've been doing forever. It's the Spurs. It's one of the most well-run organizations in the entire world. Not just the United States, everywhere. And they are known. And, they've won 5 championships in the last 30 years for a reason. Yes, they've gotten lucky with the lottery a bunch of times, but you catch my drift. They handled these star players well, and a guy they've handled well is Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama missed 12 games with a calf strain. 12 games. Spurs went 9-3 in those games. Can you imagine telling anyone that last year? No one would believe you. So the Spurs have been, this huge story in the NBA, being top 5 in the Western Conference in standings, being top of the league in both offensive and defensive ratings. It's shocking to me. As someone who did expect the Spurs to take a step up, that they're this good, especially with that Victor Wembanyama. When Wemby went out, I'm like, all right, here we go. The Spurs are gonna go on a little bit of a scoring drought, and defensively they're gonna take a step back as well. Turns out they didn't. And you look at the teams that they beat, and listen, they got lucky. They got very lucky. It was a perfect storm for them. They were up against some terrible teams. They beat the majority of them. They lost to, a couple of bad teams. They beat the Nuggets, but there was one team they lost. It's gonna come up. I'm gonna remember it at some point. But the Spurs went out and they took care of business. Again, albeit against some bad teams, but they took care of business. And not only did they go 9-3 against those teams, they learned how to play without Victor Wembanyama, which is going to be huge. Because you know what the Spurs want? More, almost as much as winning and almost as much as making the playoffs and having a top seed. They want Wemby to actually be able to achieve some accolades. So if you know anything about basketball, you know that in the NBA, there is a new minimum games that you need to play in order to qualify for any of the awards. And that is 65 games. Wemby didn't get there because of the deep vein thrombosis, whatever the hell it was. They kept him out for the majority of the second half of the season after the All-Star break. This year, he's already missed 12 games. So not only are they going to manage his minutes for that, they're going to manage his minutes so he doesn't get hurt again. And the Spurs have a good chance to go far in the playoffs because they're not going anywhere without him. As good as they are without him, as big of a surprise their solid play has been without him, they're not doing anything. They're not. Wemby's back. And the Spurs pulled off a shocking upset against the Thunder, in which Wemby only plays 21 minutes in that game, but is obviously a massive factor when he comes in. He's my favorite player in the league. He's my favorite non-Knick in the league. And the Spurs, if you know me, the Spurs are my second favorite team in the league. And I follow them probably as close as any other team, not even close to the Knicks, but you catch my drift. This Spurs team with Victor Wembanyama in his third year is a championship contender. They are. Stephon Castle has taken a massive step up. Dylan Harper, as the second overall pick, he's going to come into his own, probably going to be a star as well. And the Spurs are getting incredible production from Jeremy Sohan, the Devin Vassell's, the Keldon Johnsons. And what has been a major pickup for them this year is Luke Cornett, of all people, Knicks legend, Luke Cornett, who's been very solid in non-Wemby minutes and also in double big lineups with Victor Wembanyama. He's been a big rebounding guy. Like he's a Swiss Army knife on defense, and offensively he's not a complete non-factor. But when you compare both of these teams, when you look at the top to the bottom, of course, what the Knicks have, the Spurs don't, is the pure star power. They've got the bigger names. They've got the more talented and well-rounded starting lineup. Spurs have the best player. Victor Wembanyama is better than Jalen Brunson. He's a lot better than Karl Anthony Towns. But he's only going to play 20, 25 minutes in this game. I cannot see him playing more than 25 minutes in this game. So I'm going to get into it. Let's talk about what the Knicks have versus what the Spurs have. If you watch Knicks games, you understand that this is one of the best offensive teams in the league. Number 3 in offensive rating at around 121. Defensively, there are no slouches there either. Defensively, they're I think they're 11th in the league, third least in points allowed per game. But that's because of slow pace. The Knicks, offensively, that's where the strengths lie. They're going to be missing a massive piece for them offensively. And you may not think that he's very important, but I'd argue that he's the third or fourth most important offensive player for the Knicks, and that's Deuce McBride, who's out. He's got a high ankle sprain. I doubt he plays for the next 2 to 3 weeks, which is unfortunate, considering how important he was for the Knicks before his injury. He was hitting threes, just an unbelievable clip. He was shooting like 50+% over a 10-game span, willing the Knicks back in games with his three-point shooting. That game against the Jazz, the Knicks started 23-0, start the game, and Deuce played a large factor in that. So they're not going to have Deuce. That's a problem. They need him for spacing. They need him for three-point shooting. They need him for point of attack defense. That's an area to watch out for. But the Knicks on their own, obviously, they possess, one of the best defensive players in the NBA in OG Anunoby. Mikal Bridges has been playing way above his head this year. Let me take a step back on that. I wouldn't say way above his head, just way above what we saw from him last year. He's been a massive factor on the defensive end. And a lot of people are giving him his flowers for everything defensively, and he's not great as an on-ball defender. Off-ball, he might be the best defender in the league. With his length, with his ability to be 2 steps ahead of everyone on defense, his anticipation, and of course, the main guys. Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is a guy who performs in the clutch. He's the guy who performs the best during the brightest and the biggest moments. And there may be people out there who don't think that this is a big or bright moment. This is a tournament game. This is a championship game at any level. You don't normally play this high stakes of a game, no matter what you want to say. No matter if you think it's important, no matter if you don't think it's important. There's a lot of money on the line for these guys, especially the guys at the end of the bench that become Daddies of the world. They're barely making money as it is. And obviously, you're the average human being. Oh, well, they're not making money. They're NBA players. They make a lot of money, all right? That's still who would have wanted $500,000 if they win this game? So I've always sensed from the star players the willingness to go out there and play their asses off for the guys at the end of the bench. They want to see their guys make some money as well. And that's part of it. I don't think Jalen Brunson's just going to go out there and play his hardest because there's money on the line. Jalen Brunson is a guy who shows up in the biggest moments. And this is a championship game, no matter how you want to look at it. And listen, I may be a little biased, but if I had to pick a team in any big game, I'd pick whatever team has Jalen Brunson on it. But you know about the Knicks. You know what they do well. You know how they offensive rebound better than most teams, if not all in the entire NBA. You know the X factor that Mitchell Robinson is. Do you know what Josh Hart has been? Much to the chagrin of myself, everyone thinks that I'm a Josh Hart hater. I'm a Josh Hart realist, guys. Don't get ahead of yourselves. He's going to fall back down to earth and play like the Josh Hart that we all know for at least half of the season. And then he'll pick it back up and then he'll lose it again. This is just how it is with a streaky shooter. Right now, the Knicks are getting the best Josh Hart than we've maybe ever seen from his tenure as a Knick. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's been bad. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, I was right all along about Josh Hart. I still believe I'm right in the fact that he's very streaky, but I will say that I was wrong about Josh Hart not being an impactful starter. Since he was moved back into the starting lineup, he's been very efficient. Again, he's been solid from three. That is the biggest thing for him. He's always going to bring it with the intensity on both ends, particularly in transition, and with the rebounding. But when his shot is falling, it opens a lot offensively. It helps with the spacing. It helps with creating open lanes. And it's a huge factor for this team. And that's my major issue with Josh Hart is like, if he's playing 40 minutes a game like he was last year with Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks are essentially living and dying by Josh Hart's ability to shoot the three. Because you trade for Karl Anthony Towns, you acquire all this spacing. Josh Hart's in the game, he's missing threes, so you don't have that spacing. Well, he's hitting threes right now. And the Knicks are obviously capitalizing on it. They've been a significantly better team since he entered the starting lineup, and that's because he's shooting so well. If he wasn't hitting water, if he fell out of a boat, they would not be as good as they are right now. But I circle back to the Deuce injury. I'm not saying the Knicks can't win this game. The Knicks, at the start of the season when Deuce was out, he missed a few games, personal reasons. They were 0-3. They've won these last two NBA Cup games without him. But albeit, they weren't playing much. Raptors facing injury, the Magic injuries as well. And also it took a 40-point, 16 for 27 shooting night for Jalen Brunson to win that second game. And I'm not sitting here to tell you the Knicks have no chance without Deuce McBride. I'm just saying a very important player for the Knicks is not playing tonight. And you're going to have to look to guys like Jordan Clarkson, who's been atrocious. He had a good bounce back game against the Magic. He has been their go-to scoring option off the bench. To no one's surprise, he is... Don't kill me for saying this. He's the second best shot creator on the Knicks. He is. With the ball in his hands, he's the second best shot creator. He's the second best pure scorer on the team. Sorry, he is. Now, is he the most efficient scorer? No, absolutely not. But the volume is exactly what you'd like to see from a bench player. Just at some point, that comes back to bite you in the ass. Especially when you're not afforded the depth that you have when Deuce McBride is healthy. So the Knicks are almost forced to play Jordan Clarkson more than they want to right now. But when he's playing well, he's a massive positive for the team. He's a massive positive. And he's what I was, yearning for the entire season last year. Like the Knicks need a guy off the bench who can come in and score in bunches. And it is what it is. If a guy like that is inefficient, he's not playing well, you pull him. It's that simple. You yank him. He's a low risk, high reward player, especially for the money that he's making on the veterans minimum. So let's talk about how the Spurs and the Knicks match up. Knicks, top 3 offensive rebounding team in the league, especially with Mitchell Robinson. The Spurs are actually the number 1 team in the NBA at preventing offensive rebounds. So that's something to watch for. I'm excited to see that. The Spurs just don't really have any bad rebounders. Like their point guard, Stephon Castle, is averaging 6.5 rebounds. Dylan Harper, who, is smaller than Castle, but he plays the 2 guard. He's averaging 4 rebounds. But other than that, they don't have any bad rebounders. They don't. Like, they don't have any Jalen Brunsons in the lineup. Guys that can't get up, guys that can't rebound. As I said, Luke Cornett been very good on both ends when it comes to rebounding. Jeremy Sohan is a good rebounder. That's not something that the Spurs don't excel in, but it's something that the Knicks also excel in. They're a very good rebounding team. Karl-Anthony Towns might be the best defensive rebounder in the NBA. As much shit as I give him for being inept on the offense or on the defensive end at times, he's a great rebounder. And there's a visible difference with the Knicks' ability to rebound on the defensive end when Karl-Anthony Towns is off the floor. Just watch. There is. I mentioned earlier that Wemby would probably be on a minutes restriction. I also mentioned how the Spurs are a much better defensive team with Victor Wembanyama on the court versus when he's off the court. To no one's surprise. To the tune of 5 points better defensive rating. 112 on, 117 off. That's how good of a defender that Victor Wembanyama is. He's got a defensive rating of 105. 105. On a team that doesn't have a defensive rating in the top 10, I don't think you realize how impressive that is. Like, the majority of the best individual defensive rating players in the NBA are on the Thunder. And no shit. The Thunder are a top 3, probably the best team of all time, considering, compared to other teams in the NBA and defensive rating. They are on a historic pace. No one matches up with them as a team defense. And individual defensive ratings go off of that. Can largely be attributed to the defensive prowess of the rest of the players on said player's team. And their Wemby is not that player. Again, as I said, the Spurs have a defensive rating of 117 with him off the floor. That would be bottom half of the league. I believe bottom 10, maybe bottom 5. With him, they are 112, which is like top 12 or top 13. Unreal. So, Casey, I saw your comment before, and we have one viewer. This is why we go on Twitter a lot. He goes, "Let's go Knicks. Who guards Castle and Harper and keeps them out of the paint?" I mean, here's the issue with Deuce McBride being out. This would have been a great Deuce game. I don't know if the Knicks would have started him, but I believe the Knicks would have played Deuce 30-plus minutes a game. Mikal Bridges is going to guard Stephon Castle. I think the Knicks are going to be left with no choice but to put Jalen Brunson on Dylan Harper. I just don't think they're left with any choice there. And I love Dylan Harper's game. But is he going to beat you on his own? Is Dylan Harper going to kill your hopes and dreams of winning an NBA Cup? I don't think so. So I think Jalen Brunson is going to be matched up with Dylan Harper. Remains to be seen. With Deuce out, this is the other issue. Like, defensively, they have to rely on OG and Mikal Bridges so much. With Deuce out, look at that bench. Who do you trust defensively? Tyler Kolek has been giving you a lot in the areas that you would expect him to give a lot. On the offensive end, with his playmaking, with his quick decision-making on the offensive end, and taking the occasional charge here and there on defense. Other than that, what the hell do you expect? The Knicks expected Gershon Yabusele to be anything better than a traffic cone on offense and defense. He's nowhere near efficient and productive as an NBA player. Jordan Clarkson doesn't play defense. Who the hell are you left with? You've got to interchange OG. You've got to interchange him with Mikal. You got to interchange him with Josh Hart. Thankfully, the Knicks had Mitchell Robinson off the bench. And that is the most intriguing matchup for this game. Wemby didn't start the game against the Thunder. Of course, he finished it. He didn't start the first quarter or the third quarter. You know who doesn't start for the Knicks? Mitchell Robinson. And I'm very interested to see. This will obviously be the case. Mitchell Robinson is going to guard Victor Wembanyama when he's in the game. I do believe that Mike Brown, not to say Mike Brown's going to, every time Victor Wembanyama steps into the game, like he's going to insert Mitchell Robinson there, because we know what Mitch is, and we know how he's having maybe the worst free throw shooting season in NBA history. That's not happening. But I do see 15 plus minutes of Mitchell Robinson matching up with Wemby. Mitch is huge. He's 7-footer, massive wingspan. If there's anyone in the NBA, not, Zach Edey, like near Wemby's height, who can match up with Wemby, could be Mitchell Robinson, who's been somewhat underwhelming on the defensive end this year. But that's my matchup to watch tonight, is Wemby, Mitchell Robinson. And here's the other thing. I wanted to touch on this. It's one of my biggest keys to this game. And it kind of echoes the sentiment that I've shared. If you've watched me for a long time, and something that I just mentioned earlier about Josh Hart. Wemby is at his best, and no shit, when he's roaming the paint. When he doesn't need to hedge out to the three-point line. He doesn't need to respect the three-point shooting prowess of the opposing big man or an opposing player on the team. Because it's not like he's slow. He's no Manu Bol. Can't run around him. Wemby's a fast player for his size. And he's got the length to recover, not with his feet, with his hands and his arms. Now, why do you think I bring this up? So the Knicks have one player in the lineup that isn't a good shooter. Do you know where Wemby's going to be? Roaming the paint. He's not going to be overextended to the three-point line. He's not going to be playing up on shooters. He's going to be in the paint. You want him to be in drop, with Karl-Anthony Towns setting the screen as the roller in the pick and roll action. The Knicks have, when Josh Hart's shooting well from three, perhaps the best spacing in the league by default. So the Knicks went out and traded for consensusly the top three-point shooting big man in NBA history. A guy who has not been a world beater from three lately, which I do like. And I've loved what I've seen from Karl-Anthony Towns over the last few games. He has not been amazing offensively, but he's still bringing it with the physicality on both ends. That's another story for another day. I'd be remiss to not mention that from Karl-Anthony Towns. But the Knicks have spacing. They have better spacing than any team in the league. Now, if the Spurs start to respect that spacing, that means you're going to get Wemby out of the spots that you don't want him in. There's a reason why Wemby has such a good defensive rating. And it's not because of how good of a perimeter defender he is. It's because he's afforded the opportunity to be a free safety, to do whatever the hell he wants on the defensive end. One guy on the floor who's not a good three-point shooter. Well, you know what? Wemby could sit in 15 feet away from the guy and play defense on him and roam the paint. The Knicks have the better talent, of course. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that. they are also going to be the significantly better team than the Spurs with Wemby off the court. And that's not to say that the Spurs, again, haven't been amazing with Wemby off the court. They have. 9-3 over the last 12 games, as I mentioned before. Victor Wembanyama has 105 defensive rating. The on and off stats tell you the entire story. The Knicks need to capitalize on the minutes where Victor Wembanyama is on the bench. They just have to. Offensively, I'm not very concerned. Even with Wemby on the court, again, because of the aforementioned argument that I just made. Offensively, the Knicks have the spacing. Josh Hart's shooting well from three. Wemby can't be as effective a defender as he normally is. But the Knicks just need to win the minutes when he's off the floor. They just have to. They're the better team. They're more talented. They've got the player who you take over any other player in the NBA in big moments in Jalen Brunson, who had an all-time game against the Magic to send them to the finals. 16 for 27 shooting, 40 points. Now are the Knicks going to need a level of production like that from Jalen Brunson tonight to win? I don't think so. But that only depends on how everyone else plays. You know he's going to show up. Will Cat show up? Will Mikal Bridges show up? Will Jordan Clarkson show up? You know OG's going to be there on both ends. Hate to say it, but you know Josh Hart's going to be there because based on how he's playing lately. It all comes down to the guys that I just mentioned. Mikal, Clarkson, Cat. But I'm excited, man. I'm very excited. And this is good. I'm glad I was able to come on here. Getting over the stomach bug. So, hence why I didn't do a live stream on Twitter. I don't want this going out to everyone. I kind of feel like shit. I look like shit. But thanks everyone for the 3 or 4 people for tuning in. It's very confounding to me. YouTube doesn't make sense. I post shorts or whatever the hell they call them on here. Don't do well. TikToks do better. Twitter live streams do better. But if you don't subscribe to me already on YouTube, subscribe. I don't know where the hell it is, down below, wherever you subscribe. I don't know. But that would be much appreciated. I always say that there's going to be more YouTube content coming your way, but there actually is. Right? There is. There are a few people that I'd like to have on my shows, a few people that I like to talk to. And again, you get the good shorts. You can just follow me on TikTok. I've been very active on TikTok, and not just about the Knicks, not just about New York sports teams, but everything. I talked about Ime Udoka's comments that he made last night about the refs, which is insane. He's going to get a massive fine if he hasn't already gotten one for that. But I digress. Let's go Knicks. Huge game tonight. My prediction, I think the Knicks are going to win by 5 points. Wemby's going to give them a run for their money down the stretch, but I think Jalen Brunson takes over and does Jalen Brunson things and reminds the league why he's a top 10 player in the NBA. There you go. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'll talk to you all very soon, hopefully after a Knicks win. See ya.